Hello, welcome back to Brick Gaming YGO. I'm back here today with an updated Traptrix list post the structure decks. So I'm going to get right into it, but before I do, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, I would highly recommend it, and it would be pretty cool of you. So let's start talking about some Traptrix. Okay, I'm going to get all of this moved over. So starting off, I still play triple Mermelio. Mermelio is still pretty good. Still a really good card. Searches a trap. Pops when special summon. So pretty nice. Then I play triple Mantis. This one searches for another Traptrix monster. And when it is when summoned it searches, and then once per turn you can bounce one of your spell traps back to your hand and then reset another one. So this is good for both dodging stuff, and it's also good just to trigger Sierra on turn 1. Next up, I play 2 Pudica. Pudica is pretty good. Searches for the field spell when it's summoned, and then when it is special summoned, it can banish one of your opponent's special summoned monsters, and then they get one back during standby phase. However, that's not the biggest deal, since there's plenty of ways that you can play around that, and it's still pretty good. I think the one problem with this card, though, is against Kashtira. It can actually kind of help them out in some ways, so I mean, there is a little bit of risk there, but still a pretty good card. Next up, I play double Dionea. So when Dionea is normal summoned, it can reborn one of your Traptrix monsters, and then when special summoned, it can reset one of your trap hole cards from your graveyard, and then it's eventually sent to the graveyard. But the good news is that you can bounce back with Mantis. There's a good chance you can use it, and depending on what you reset, it could just end up not mattering at all. Like, that it will eventually be sent to the graveyard by her effect. So, pretty solid card. Then I play double Arachnocampa. I've seen some people play 3 and same thing with Pudica. I've seen some people play 3 or play 1, or some people I even heard saying that they weren't going to play any, but Pudica is just solid. And then Arachnocampa, the reason I play 2 is because it does lock you in. And usually most of the time you're wanting to play this card when, leaving it on the field by itself, unless you have to go into XYZ, because the spell and trap protection on the field is really important, because a lot of cards can out your back row very easily, and you want something that can definitely protect them. But it's still a good extender, still a very nice card, definitely better than Vesiculo, if I'm saying that correctly. So I definitely prefer that one, and I completely cut out Vesiculo because it's pretty weak in my opinion. I might go back to it eventually, but if this build needs it, but from what I've done so far, it did not. Next up, I play triple Fenrir. Fenrir is just really solid, searches itself, and it can also just make your board just a bit better. Whether going first or second break boards, it can help make your board better, and it's a good bait card. So let's say you're really weak to interruption, but you have the Fenrir. Your opponent's going to hit Fenrir usually a lot. As soon as you get out there, or as soon as you try to use it, people just do not want to deal with this card. So it's a good bait as well, and then if it does go off, even better. Next up for the hand traps, I'm playing a very small hand trap lineup, just mainly because there's not enough space to play a bigger one, in my opinion. I mean, I guess you could technically play more, but then I feel like you're kind of reducing from other areas. So I play triple Nibiru, just because Nibiru is such a good card this format. There's so many decks that this does a lot of stuff against. For example, Sprite, depending on which version they're playing, you can definitely nib them before they go into Gigantic, which is pretty nice. Kashtira, it's really good against, and it can be really good against other combo decks, or even the mirror, depending on what your opponent does and how they sequence their plays. Then I play triple Imperm. Imperm is just really good in general. It's way better than Valor in this deck because first off, it's a trap. Secondly, it plays around a lot of stuff like tasking. It plays, or not, they changed the name, but thrusting or thrust. It also plays around stuff like what's it called, talent. So it's just a lot better in my opinion than playing Valor right now. Just for a few examples. Then I play triple Pot of Prosperity. You just want to be able to search your cards faster. You want to get to all your stuff as quickly as you can, and Prosperity allows you to do that. Usually you're banishing 3 off a pot, but if you have to, you are able to banish 6. It's just not preferable. Then play double Talent, just because this deck even though a lot of the cards really help out the deck, this deck can still be weak to hand traps at times, especially at the very beginning of your turn. So I like talents just because it can keep you in the game, and it can also, going second, just help you better play through interruptions. Then also one called by. Called by is kind of the same idea, possibly a little bit better going first. Definitely a little bit worse breaking boards, but it's a similar concept for playing that card. And then finally I play One Garden. This card just really busted. It allows you to combo really hard. Like, this card lets you do so much. And I've seen people argue for possibly playing 2 of this deck, especially, or playing 2 of this card in this deck, especially when this card was first announced. I've also seen people arguing for triple Pudica, but I think just playing 2 and 1 is just the best ratio for right now. I might revisit that later on, but for now that's what I'm going with. Now for the traps, I play triple hole. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not going to try. I preferred it when it was just like Holtea, but yeah, that was like so much easier to pronounce. But anyways, this card just really busted. It's Brigadine, but in some ways a lot better, especially like once you get past turn 1, this card just becomes so good. It recurs resources with your monsters, so it's just a really solid card altogether. And then for the other trap holes, I play 1 Floodgate, because Floodgate is still really good. I think 1 is the correct number. And then double Gravedigger's trap hole. Now, I don't go all out with the trap holes, because even though, like, you know, you're able to search them, even though they're really good by themselves, even though they put in extra interruptions, the problem is that if you start maxing out on them or playing like a ton, you start to face more bricks overall, and you want to see your engine and not just a bunch of trap holes, because the trap holes by themselves just won't win you the game. You need to see engine, you need to see your monsters, and you don't want to reduce that. You don't want to reduce consistency. And also this deck is 40 cards. I mean, just you want the most consistent build possible. So I'm playing Triple Dimension Barrier. Now at first I didn't have room, but I did some thinking, some big brain thinking, and the idea is, what's like one of the best, or if not the best, trap cards in the game? Like, what cards are going to help you just cement a win, or just help your opponent, or help you beat your opponent and allow them not to play? And the card I kept going back to was Dimensional Barrier, just because it is such a solid card. It is really strong. It does what you want it to do, and there's so many decks that just don't play links right now. Like, for example, you have Branded, you have, in some cases, Sprites. Sometimes the XYZs are just so much better than the Wings. All that type of stuff, this card just really comes in clutch. Then I play triple Brigandine as the final trap. Now, Brigandine is just like Holtea, and the reason I'm playing this card is just for consistency. You really just want to be able to combo turn 1, and that's kind of the idea. I want to combo, I want to get my stuff off, I want to be able to play the game, so I'm going to maximize on traps. And I'll also explain some of the other alternative cards you can play later on, and why I don't play them, or why I'm not really considering them at this moment. Then moving on to the extra deck, I play Triple Sarah. I think 3 you still have room for, and it's still a really solid card. I really like it a lot. It just puts in work. It's really nice. Then I play 1 Atipus. Atipus is also a very solid card. Definitely really good. The boost, the effect to like banish and destroy, or like also, what is it? And it also allows you to like negate effects, all that type of stuff. It's just all really solid. However, you're not going to be making this card every single game, or not every single game, but every single turn. You really only want to play 1, because you'll most of the time only ever need 1. And I just think playing a smaller account of her, I've seen some people arguing for maybe 2, but I just don't think that's fully correct. Then I play 1 Asa. Asa is just really solid in the mirror match. A lot of people are on this deck now because it's so affordable, and it's a really easy deck to get into, that you just want to be able to outperform the mirror match. And so Asa allows you to do that, because it lets you reborn your opponent's cards, and lets you further your own board, and lets you go deeper into like your extra deck. So I really like it for that reason. And if it's popped, I mean, that's not the worst thing ever. It lets you search. So yeah, it is pretty solid. Then for the generic links, I play 1 Phoenix, just still really solid. 1 Unicorn, of course, also really good. And then the 1 Access Code, pretty big fan of this card. definitely puts in a lot of work. So yeah, that's for the links. And then moving into XYZs, I play the 1 Rafflesia. Rafflesia is just really solid. I've seen 2. Also seen like, I haven't seen 3, but I've definitely seen people playing 2. I think 1's just all you need. You're only ever going to really be making this card first turn, and you'll only really be resolving this card once or twice in the entire game. So I think just the 1 is fine. Then I play 1 Cowboy. Cowboy is also really good. It allows you just to win in time. And I know that's kind of toxic, but winning in time is really important. You don't want to lose in time. You don't want to get just, lose because of a clock. Then I play 1 Abyss Dweller. Dweller is also really solid. This card, there's still plenty of decks that do use the graveyard. And if you're able to lock down the graveyard on turn 1, then you're just feeling nice. You're feeling nice. The card is good. Then I play 1 Silent Honor Arc. This card is also really solid. This card, the reason I play this card, I won't go into a little bit of detail. I think I might have explained this in one of my other videos. But the reason I like this card is that it doesn't trigger anything in the graveyard, since it just attaches the other card to it. And it allows you out a possibly like negate or a possible card that will cause you issues later on. And then if you go battle phase, attack directly, or attacking something weaker or something defense, you're able to just make Zeus off of this 1 card. And in the mid or late game, if you happen to be down resources, it's really good. Or if you happen to go second, you're able to get into 2 monsters and you can just leave everything else in your hand, then you're just chilling. You got the Silent Honor Arc, you're able to out stuff, and you're able to continue playing more than your opponent. In some cases. Then play 1 Time Thief. Time Thief is still just a great card. Very generic, rank 4. Allows you to, so basically just explain this card. During standby phase, you can attach, and this is during both players' standby phases, you're able to attach the top card of your opponent's deck to him. And then based upon what's attached to him as material, he's able to get different effects. So for example, if he has a monster, he's able to quick effect banish himself. If he has a spell, he's able to draw 1. And if he has a trap, he is able to put one of your opponent's cards to top of their deck. So turn 1, if you use like Brigadine or something else, you are able just to have a free interruption at some point during your opponent's turn. And now the effect may be once per turn, but you may use all 3 of those effects during that turn. So I mean, it's pretty nice. Then I play 1 Ping. I'll go back and forth on playing 1 or 2 of this card, and I decided to just go with 1 because I really thought about it. Unless you're playing like a really heavy Traptrix build or a build that really needs to just rely on ping, then the card's really important. But if you're playing a build that's able to do other stuff or is able to just play outside that structure deck a lot more, then this card isn't necessarily as important, and it's just a solid 1-up. The effective search and the effective attach material is really good for this card, and it definitely allows you to utilize your Traptrix effects, like for example Pudica, a lot more, and just be able to get a lot more advantage off of the banish, as well as preventing your opponent from bringing back the monster you banished. So I mean, that is pretty nice. And then finally I play 1 AA Zeus. Zeus is also very solid. It just sends everything. Really just an easy, simple card. And allows you to add a lot of stuff, especially if you're able to bait negates before you go into this guy. It just feels really nice. It feels really solid every single time. So that's the extra deck. I'd say it's relatively standard. I think there's definitely some cards that I'm not playing that other people are playing, for sure, from what I've seen. And definitely ratio differences is probably the biggest difference, because everyone's going to be playing different ratios. Then moving on to the side deck, and this is where my side deck does differ from other people's. I think there's even some card, like a card that people play in the main deck right now that I'm not playing in the main. But first off, 3 Anti-Spell. It's really good, especially if you like lose game 1 or go into game 3. This card's really good. A lot of spell cards are what really destroy boards, like Lightning Storm, maybe Cosmic, also Thrust, and then also like Tactics. All those cards are really good against this deck, and having Anti-Spell is very solid. Then I play Triple Gozen. Gozen is also really good. So I really want to main deck this card, but I just can't find the space or find like a good reason to main deck this card over another card. But the reason I side deck this card is obviously with matchups. Now Labyrinth is the other really big trap deck right now, and Gozen does nothing against that deck. Gozen does nothing, but against like Kashtira, it's pretty solid. Against Sprite, it can be really solid, and against a bunch of like other just more random decks can be pretty solid. But it doesn't have like that kind of like universally good matchup against almost anything, so I really couldn't justify main decking it, but side decking it makes sense to me, especially going first or even second, because you can definitely break a board with Gozen. Then play triple evenly. The reason I don't main it, and I know why people main deck this card, because going second is really strong, so if you lose a dice roll game 1, this card's really solid. And then if you do win the dice roll, then you can just get rid of your Traptrix Holtea. I'm just going to call Holtea. The new way that's written, I'm struggling with the pronunciation. But you can get rid of evenly match off of that card, and it's fine. Now, the reason I side deck this card is because I feel like a card like Fenrir is just a lot better overall, and Holtea, maybe that's how you pronounce it. Let me know if I'm pronouncing this card anywhere close to correctly. I'm just going to go with Holtea maybe. But anyways, there's plenty of other cards you can get rid of off of it, like Debarrier, one of your trap holes, an Imperm going first, anything like that, and it's about the same as getting rid of it evenly matched in the long run. So like for me, I just would rather side deck evenly. But that's just my personal opinion. I mean, look, I could be completely wrong. I could go to the tournament and I would need evenly matched every single game, but I just don't see that. Next up, I play Triple Book of Eclipse. This card is just really strong, really generic overall. Now, I didn't play Traptrix this weekend, but I want to test out another build that did play Book of Eclipse. So I played kind of like this Dragon Link deck, just to get an idea like how Book of Eclipse is interacting in this format, and just playing different decks to kind of learn about the main interactions I need to be aware of this format. But and I know this kind of might sound a little bit weird, but no. And that's how I want to kind of test the idea. And Book of Eclipse was really strong, really good. And so then I just kind of applied the same logic to this deck, did some testing, and got a idea of like, hey, Book of Eclipse is pretty good. It's pretty good in this deck because you're able to clear boards for once in this deck. Like before the ban list, the deck could not clear boards. It had a really hard time at clearing boards, and you had to side deck a bunch of stuff to be able to clear boards. But now the main deck is strong enough on its own, and Book of Eclipse just helps out with that. And then finally I play Triple Gamma Seal. Gamma Seal is just a really strong card overall. It just allows you to tribute off your opponent's monster and just get into this card. So, you know what? I like it. It's good. I was considering playing Kumungus over Gamma Seal, but 2400 attack is almost even with a lot of your extra deck monsters, or it's even bigger. And main deck wise, you're not going to be able to really get rid of Kumungus, I would say, as easily as Gamma Seal. So I just decided that Gamma Seal was a better option overall. Then moving into other options. So these are all different options I played around with within this deck, and I'll explain why I would consider playing them in the future, or why I think they're absolute, just trash. So starting off is Parallel Exceed. So Parallel Exceed is pretty good, but the reason I don't play it is because it can become a brick, especially late game in this deck. You're at least getting to mid game. You're at least getting mid game, and if you draw into like your third copy of this card, and you don't have any left in the deck, this card could actually like lose you the game just by drawing it. And I think it's good in the respect of it lets you go further into your deck, it lets you combo more, it lets you get into your extra deck more. I mean, all that type of stuff, awesome. But at the cost of bricking on it, I would just rather not play it. Especially with this deck, I think the deck you want to minimize bricks in this deck. You don't want to have like any more bricks than necessary. So for that reason, I'm not playing it right now. But it's a deck I would consider, or a card I would consider for the future. Next up, I play One Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm is solid as a card, but in this format, I just don't like it as much. I just don't think it does enough. And no, I just won't play it right now. I think Evenly Matched is better overall than Lightning Storm. And those would be like the two spots I would really like flip-flop between, or consider flip-flopping between. So that's kind of my thought on that. Next up, Wing Garibo. Wing is nice if you're playing Parallel Exceed, but if you're not playing Parallel Exceed, just don't play this card unless you're playing Parallel. And even then, Wing Garibo is really a lot more situational on whether or not you can make it. And a lot of times I think you would just rather have another extra deck spot instead to have more rank 4 and having more of a toolbox right now. Then play, or not play, but now I was considering playing Baguska, but I feel like the other XYZs are just more solid overall, especially with how the deck looks right now. You don't really need stall as much anymore, and Baguska is mainly there just for the stall. So, this card I could consider in the future, but as of right now, I just wouldn't play it. Next up is Lancia. I know that people are playing Lancia more right now because of Kashtira. I feel like the deck already does enough against Kashtira, and just going with more generic options instead of playing Lancia as another card to just play against that one deck or maybe like a few other random matchups. I feel like Lancia just isn't as strong as other card choices. Next up, Valor. Yeah, I already talked about Valor, but it's just nowhere close to as good as Imperm, especially in this deck. Next up, D-Shifter. If it was still tier format, I would play this card if it was still tier format. However, it is not tier format anymore, which means that this card got cut almost immediately. Next up is Traptrix, Trap Hole Nightmare. The reason I decided not to play this card is because it does miss timing, and timing is still pretty important. And outside of that, it's just an underpowered Solemn Strike. I would play Solemn Strike before I played Traptrix, Trap Hole Nightmare in this deck. And then talking about Solemn Strike, I don't play because it's not a normal trap. And that's like the first reason I thought about, like, why wouldn't I play this card? And it's counter trap, so you can't trigger your Sierra off of it. And next up, it was just a space issue. Like, it just came down to space. Same with Dynamiscus, it just came down to space. If I were to play Dynamiscus, like, if I played Parallel Exceed, I would play Dynamiscus. If I were to play Dynamiscus, I would probably play Parallel Exceed. It allows you to fix a little bit of that bricking issue, but otherwise, I just won't play it. And, no, just also space. Next up is Traptrix. Now, Traptrix is a very solid card, is very good overall. However, right now, there just isn't room. Next up is Torrential. Pre-ban list, and maybe, well, before tiers came out, I would definitely play this card. But right now, I just won't play it. You want to have a good board. You want to have actually do kind of like a semi-build-a-board thing. And Torrential Tribute, if you're doing that going first, and you were able to build your board, then you really won't want to resolve this card as much once your opponent was able to clear your board. And with this deck, it makes it really hard for your opponent to clear your board, especially with how sticky some of the cards are, and the protection the deck offers now with like the Field Spell and Arachnocampa. I just won't play Torrential. Next up is Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is still a solid choice, especially if your opponent's like, playing Lightning Storm and stuff like that, Harpies, clearing out your back row. However, due to Arachnocampa's defensive capabilities with the back row protection as well as anti-spell, Solemn Judgment, I just won't play. Also, life points do matter a lot in this deck. Like, this deck, life points do matter, especially since this deck is really able to go to time a lot, so Solemn Judgment can actually hurt this deck more than it helps. So, and then finally, Swords of Concealed Light, which is literally just a worse version of Book of Eclipse, in my opinion. Sure, Book of Eclipse does have its own issues, but I think Swords is just a worse card overall. It's not a quick play. You can only play it on your own turn. If your opponent is able to put up an engage, this card just doesn't do enough. So, yeah, those were my other options I considered. There's probably some others that I'll think about in the future, or some other ideas I could go with. But as of right now, this is what I came up with. I will be continuing to work on the deck, theorizing new main deck ideas, side deck, extra deck, all that type of stuff. So please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, let me know. If you have any suggestions, let me know as well. And thank you for watching.